welcome back to the channel, lads and ladies, and welcome to the introduction of a concept that I'd like to explore with you all. What I'm showing you right now is some Besiege gameplay where I'm designing a weapon of war. This is an old video on my channel, or older, I guess. I don't really consider anything on my channel truly old, although the internet moves fast these days. Anyway, the idea is, how would you design the next War Thunder? Or let me put it this way. Fans of War Thunder, players of War Thunder, how would you design your ideal tank game? Or, if you want to get realistic, what things would you like to see in a tank game that maybe you don't see in War Thunder right now? It could be very simple. I'd like to see this kind of tank, but I'd like to make it more fun for this video. So, I want to make a video on your ideas, so I'll share mine first, just in this brief format, and then I'll put a link to my Discord server where I should have a special channel made for you to share your thoughts that I'll try and turn into a video on how you would make your tank game. So first off, one of the things I would love to see in a tank game, and I've seen it in other games, is the ability to design your own vehicles. Now, I feel like there's a point where it's not very fun, and it's something you can see in games like Besiege, where Besiege is a very fun game, but it's not a competitive game. So I'd like to see the ability to customize tanks, but sort of a balance between Besiege, which is you have the tools to build pretty much anything, and you also need an engineering degree to be successful on a large scale. Or, there's other Kerbal Space Program is another one where it's really about the designing and not a lot else, so you have to focus a lot on it. And then there's games like World of Tanks, where you can customize vehicles with different modules that may have never been mounted in real life, but that's okay. It's all for fun, exciting gameplay. And yet there's almost always one specific setup that's just better than anything else you could choose, so it's really more like just another reason to grind. So I don't like that aspect about vehicle customization either, and I'd like to see a balance between the two. Something along the lines of character creation in D&D style games like Pathfinder Kingmaker, which you can tell I've played a lot from the videos on my channel, although I'm not playing that right now. But the idea is you could customize your vehicle, but there would be, let's say, 3 or 4 builds that are actually meta. So instead of having one ideal setup for a vehicle, you would have a few different options that would still be competitive, and then if you want to get crazy, you could have some more things as well. And one area where we actually see that in War Thunder is with aircraft, that they can carry a lot of different secondary loadouts and different belts for their main guns, and that can turn them from a fighter, an anti-aircraft platform, to a close air support platform, and maybe you choose to use bombs, maybe you choose to use rockets, and it's not entirely clear which is the best or most competitive choice. You get to play around with things, and that's one of the reasons I love close air support in War Thunder. There's a ton of experimentation and learning to do there, and if you don't believe me, then jump into it and find out for yourself. Anyway, another thing I would like to see, apart from that balanced level of customization, is anime. So this is a game called Valkyria Chronicles. You can see that they've made a few of them, and it focuses on beautiful characters doing ugly things. And that's the heart of anime now, isn't it? But I'd love to see, I just love the general anime art style. If you look at these tanks, they're fantastical, but these definitely look like early model Shermans, and they're facing off against these Warhammer 40k monstrosities. Oh, look, there's one that looks like it looks like a mix between an M6 and a Sherman, really. And then this kind of looks like a Dicker Max, but it's got an extra little Dicker down there. It looks like a 30 mil. But you see what I mean? Valkyria Chronicle takes an artistic reimagining of real vehicles and events and weaves them into its character-based storyline. Now, I don't care a whole lot about character development. I'd like to see some, and I don't think Valkyria Chronicles does it really well. I think they're a little bit heavy-handed, which is a common theme in anime, where they milk the drama and the pathos, as it were. But I love that idea of just the art style of anime. Again, I like it. It's a mix of creative freedom, along the lines of customization, but also a unified art style that's clean but also very expressive. And I think that's where anime, coming from early cartooning, really nails that contrast. And of course, with a modern 3D technology, that makes it even more clean and beautiful. So I'd love to see an anime art style in my tank game. Moving on. BOLLO. So, for those of you that don't know, BOLLO was a tank game that came out for the Mac PC in 1987. This was the era of the first Terminator movie, and yes, I'm still convinced that 1987 was 20 years ago. It's not. I'm old. And it happens to be the year that I was born. But along with a fantastic person, the game BOLLO came into the world. And it feels a lot like Combat for the Atari. There's a tank game on there that was my first introduction to tank games, and BOLLO takes it to the next level. So, BOLLO is a game that is still alive today in its own way, and this picture sort of shows you what's going on. You've got these green trees, right? And you can imagine this in 3D with no real issues. You've got trees, which are a resource. You've got walls, which you can build or destroy. You have defensive turrets, these automated pillboxes. And an interesting feature of BOLLO was these pillboxes, when they're hostile, will sort of shoot at you a little bit. But when they're down to their last tick of health, they will aggressively rapid fire at you. So one of the things you could do is you could set off your pillboxes by getting them down to low health, your own pillboxes, and then they would just spray at other tanks. There's also mines you can drop to try and blow up people, and you can send your little builder out to harvest resources and to build things. And we've seen construction mechanics really popularized in a game I know you're all familiar with, Fortnite. Now, I think that Fortnite fails in how they implement their construction features, in that it's way too fast. You start building something and it's instantly an obstacle, and then once it's complete, you can build on top of it. It's a little bit too fast-paced, and it's just not my style. I'm not a big FPS, high-speed, rattlesnakes on cocaine, or 12-year-olds having the biggest advantage gameplay kind of guy. But what I do love is a tactical setup that you can, again, build to your own taste. How many times have you found a good position in War Thunder? Wouldn't it be cool to be able to build a defensive position? Just dig a hole, line up some sandbags, poke your cannon barrel up above. And if that's too much of an issue for you, if the enemy is bogged down in their positions, well then maybe you build a road around the backside of some otherwise inaccessible mountains and you flank their position. You see what I mean? And it doesn't have to be, again, I'd like to see it be not quite so fast-paced, but if you could build different even buildings, could you imagine building a lookout tower and having the ability to view the battlefield from, let's say, a human scout's perspective up in that tower, so you could swap to his view and observe the battlefield, and then somebody could shoot your lookout tower with a 120 millimeter high explosive round. You see? So 3 things that I would put into my own tank game, and we'll call it, my own version of War Thunder. And if I was making this a full-length video, it's already long enough, isn't it? But if I was really getting into this, I'd share the things that I really like about War Thunder that I would include in my game as well. But let me talk about the 3 things that I would add. 1, as I mentioned, a balanced level of customization where you could add different pieces of equipment or modules and things like customized add-on armor. You could put all kinds of things onto your vehicle, but also in a way where, let's say, 3 or 4 different setups are competitive and you don't just have to pick one, but also there's some room to just play around and experiment with what you're going to put onto your vehicle. Number 2, anime art style. I love the clean look. I'm just a fan of a simplified but also aesthetically pleasing gaming environment. Again, Fortnite sort of has that going on, along with a lot of other games like Overwatch, and I think that could really work out well for a tank game. I don't dislike War Thunder's realistic look, and it makes it a beautiful game, but I do prefer the anime art style, or the simplified art style, if you will. And number 3, I'd love to see a building and tactical resource management aspect added to my tank game. And again, maybe that's not your thing, and maybe you could have just like engineer vehicles that could perform those operations, and then they're not so involved in the other aspects of battle. And then things like non-combat specialist vehicle classes would come into play. Are we talking about cargo helicopters, ammo trucks? How cool would it be to drive the ammo truck and resupply your teammates? There's all kinds of things that could come into a game that is not entirely focused on having the best ability to personally destroy enemy vehicles, to build in that tactical or base building, if you will, aspect to it. And it would definitely take a lot of balancing, but I think it would be an interesting game. A nice companion to War Thunder, if you will. I wouldn't consider it a successor at all. Anyway, that's the tank game that I would make, and I could certainly talk a lot more about it, but what I really want to hear is your ideas. So please follow the link to my Discord and find the special channel and share your ideas with me there, and I'll include those in a video in the future. Catch you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.